Tears filled his eyes. The spirits watched in silence, their presence a reminder of the consequences of his actions. For a long moment, the forest was silent. Moyo remained kneeling before the ancient tree, his heart heavy with the weight of his confession. He had faced many challenges in his life, but none had been as difficult as this, admitting his own flaws and mistakes. But as he knelt there, something inside him began to shift. The burden of his guilt, while still heavy, seemed to lift ever so slightly. The antelope spirit stepped forward, its eyes filled with compassion. "You have faced your own heart," it said softly. "And in doing so, you have shown that you understand the weight of your actions. You have passed the final trial." Moyo looked up, hope filling his heart. Had he truly earned their forgiveness? Would Ada and their child be saved? The forest was still as the antelope spirit and the other guardians gathered around Moyo. The air felt thick with anticipation, and Moyo could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He had completed the trials, but he knew that the final decision still rested with the spirits. Would they accept his sacrifice? Or would they demand more? The lion-headed guardian stepped forward, its eyes glowing with ancient power. "You have proven your strength, your compassion, and your humility," it said. "But the balance of the forest cannot be restored so easily. The life you took was sacred, and a price must still be paid." Moyo's heart sank as he listened to the guardian's words. He had known from the beginning that there would be a cost, but hearing it now filled him with dread. The antelope spirit spoke next, its voice filled with sorrow. "We will not take your life," it said. "You have shown that you are willing to make amends, and for that, we will spare you. But the balance must be restored. A life was taken, and so a life must be given." Moyo's heart raced as he realized what the spirits were saying. They would spare him, but they would take either Ada's life or the life of their unborn child. Tears filled Moyo's eyes as he knelt before the spirits. "Please," he begged, his voice trembling. "Don't take them. Take me instead. They are innocent. I am the one who brought this curse upon us." But the spirits remained silent, their faces filled with sorrow. The decision was not theirs to make, it was Moyo's. The weight of the decision pressed down on Moyo like a mountain. The spirits had offered him a terrible choice. He could save either Ada or their unborn child, but not both. Moyo's heart broke at the thought of losing either of them, but he knew that he had to choose. He looked at the antelope spirit, his voice filled with pain. "I choose to save the child," he said, his voice barely a whisper. The antelope spirit nodded, its eyes filled with sorrow. "Your choice has been made," it said softly. "Your child will live, but Ada's life will be forfeit." Moyo's heart shattered as the words sank in. He had chosen to save their unborn child, but in doing so, he would lose the love of his life. The spirits began to fade, their forms dissolving into the mist, leaving Moyo alone with the weight of his decision. Moyo made his way back to the village, his heart heavy with sorrow. He had made the hardest choice of his life, and though he had saved his unborn child, the thought of losing Ada filled him with unbearable grief. The forest around him felt different now, as though the spirits were watching from every shadow, waiting to see how the balance would be restored. As Moyo approached the village, he saw the midwives gathered outside his home, their faces filled with worry. He rushed inside, his heart pounding with fear. Ada was lying in bed, her face pale and her breathing shallow. The midwives were working frantically, but it was clear that something was terribly wrong. Moyo knelt beside her, his voice trembling with emotion. "I'm here," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I'm here." Ada's eyes fluttered open, and she smiled weakly as she saw Moyo by her side. She was too weak to speak, but the love and understanding in her eyes said more than words ever could. She knew what Moyo had done, and she accepted it. She had always been selfless, and now, in her final moments, she was at peace knowing that their child would live. The midwives continued their work, and after hours of struggle, the baby was born, a healthy, crying boy. Moyo held his son in his arms, his heart filled with both joy and sorrow. He had saved their child, but Ada's life was slipping away. As the baby let out his first cries, Ada took her last breath, her spirit leaving this world to join the spirits of the forest. The village mourned the loss of Ada, a woman who had been beloved by all. Her beauty, kindness, and wisdom had touched the lives of everyone in Umoda, and her death left a deep void in the hearts of those who knew her. The villagers gathered outside Moyo's home, offering their condolences and sharing stories of Ada's life. Moyo, though devastated by the loss of his wife, knew that he had to stay strong for their child. He named the boy Adolfo, in honor of his mother. As he held his son, Moyo promised himself that he would raise him with the same love and care that Ada would have given. The weight of his guilt still hung heavy on him, but he knew that he could not dwell on the past. Adolfo needed him, and Moyo would do everything in his power to ensure that his son grew up knowing the love of both his parents. As the days passed, the village held a ceremony to honor Ada's memory. The villagers gathered at the sacred tree, where they offered prayers and songs to the spirits, asking them to guide Ada's spirit safely to the other side. Moyo stood by the tree, holding Adolfo in his arms, his heart heavy with grief. He had lost the love of his life, but he had gained a new purpose in the form of their child. The village elders spoke of Ada's life, praising her for the love and kindness she had shown to everyone. They spoke of her sacrifice, reminding the villagers of the importance of balance between the human world and the spirit world. Ada had given her life so that her child could live, and her memory would be honored for generations to come. Moyo quickly learned that being a father was no easy task. Adolfo was a strong and healthy baby, but raising him without Ada by his side was difficult. Moyo had always been a skilled hunter, but caring for an infant was a different kind of challenge. He struggled at first, unsure of how to soothe Adolfo when he cried or how to care for him properly. But with time, Moyo learned. The village women offered their help, teaching Moyo how to care for his son and offering him advice on everything from feeding to changing swaddling clothes. Moyo was grateful for their support, but the emptiness left by Ada's absence never truly went away. Still, he was determined to be the best father he could be, knowing that Adolfo was all he had left of Ada. As Adolfo grew older, Moyo began to teach him about the forest. But this time, Moyo's teachings were different. He no longer taught his son how to hunt or track animals. Instead, he taught him about the spirit of the forest and the importance of respecting the natural world. Moyo had learned the hard way that the balance between man and nature was fragile, and he wanted Adolfo to understand that from a young age. Together, Moyo and Adolfo would walk through the forest, not as hunters, but as guardians. Moyo showed his son the places where the spirits gathered, teaching him how to listen to the whispers of the wind and the rustling of the leaves. He told Adolfo the story of the antelope spirit and the trials he had faced to save him. Moyo hoped that by sharing these lessons, Adolfo would grow up with a deep respect for the world around him. Over time, Moyo became a different man. He no longer saw the thrill of the hunt or the praise of the villagers. Instead, he found peace in the quiet moments spent with his son, teaching him about the ways of the forest. Moyo had learned that true strength did not come from power or skill, but from humility and respect for the world around him. The villagers noticed the change in Moyo. He was no longer the fearless hunter they had once known, but a man who had found a deeper understanding of life. The children of the village would often gather around Moyo, listening to his stories about the spirits and the importance of balance. He had become a teacher, passing down the lessons he had learned to the next generation. As Adolfo grew older, he became known throughout the village as a wise and compassionate young man. He had inherited his father's strength, but more importantly, he had learned the lessons of the forest. Adolfo was not just a protector of the village, he was a protector of the balance between the human world and the spirit world. Adolfo would often venture into the forest alone, seeking guidance from the spirits and offering them gifts of thanks for the blessings they had bestowed upon the village. He had a deep connection to the natural world, and the spirits recognized him as a true guardian of the forest. The villagers admired Adolfo, not just for his strength, but for his wisdom and humility. One evening, as Moyo and Adolfo sat by the river, watching the sun set over the forest, a familiar figure appeared in the distance. It was the antelope spirit, its form shimmering in the fading light. Moyo and Adolfo watched in awe as the spirit approached, its eyes filled with compassion. The antelope spirit spoke, its voice soft and filled with gratitude. "You have restored the balance," it said. "Your sacrifice and dedication have been recognized. Ada watches over you both." Tears filled Moyo's eyes as he listened to the spirit's words. He had spent years carrying the weight of his guilt, but now, he finally felt a sense of closure. The spirits had forgiven him, and Ada's spirit was at peace. Moyo thanked the antelope spirit, his heart filled with gratitude. He had been given a second chance, and he would never take that for granted. As the years passed, Adolfo grew into a strong and wise man, beloved by the village and respected by the spirits. He had taken on the role of village guardian, ensuring that the people of Umoda lived in harmony with the natural world. Under Adolfo's guidance, the village prospered, and the bond between the villagers and the spirits grew stronger. Adolfo's deep respect for the forest and its inhabitants set him apart from other young men in the village. He understood the delicate balance that existed between the human world and the spirit world, and he made it his mission to protect that balance at all costs. Moyo watched with pride as his son became a true leader, knowing that Adolfo would carry on the legacy he and Ada had built. With Adolfo as the village guardian, Umoda entered a new era of prosperity and peace. The villagers had learned from Moyo's mistakes and now approached the forest with a sense of reverence and respect. Hunting was done sparingly, and only when absolutely necessary. The village elders taught the children about the spirits, passing down the stories of the antelope and the trials Moyo had faced. The villagers honored the spirits with annual ceremonies, offering gifts and prayers of gratitude for the blessings they received. The forest, once a place of fear and danger, had become a place of peace and harmony. The bond between the villagers and the spirits had been restored, and life in Umoda flourished. To celebrate the harmony between the village and the forest, the villagers held an annual festival known as the Festival of Balance. During the festival, the people of Umoda would gather at the sacred tree, offering prayers and songs to the spirits. They would give thanks for the blessings of the forest, and the spirits would offer their protection in return. Moyo and Adolfo played important roles in the festival, leading the villagers in the ceremonies and teaching the children about the importance of balance. The festival was a time of joy and reflection, a reminder of the sacrifices that had been made to restore peace between the human world and the spirit world. The villagers danced and sang, their hearts filled with gratitude for the spirit's mercy. As Moyo grew older, he imparted his final lessons to Adolfo. The bond between father and son had grown stronger over the years, and Moyo was proud of the man Adolfo had become. Moyo taught Adolfo that true strength came not from power, but from humility and compassion. Remember, Moyo would say, the forest is not ours to control. We are only its stewards, and it is our duty to protect it. Adolfo listened carefully to his father's words, knowing that they would guide him for the rest of his life. Moyo had learned these lessons the hard way, but he hoped that Adolfo would never have to make the same mistakes. The future of the village, and the balance of the forest, rested in Adolfo's hands, and Moyo knew that his son was ready for the responsibility. One day, Adolfo asked his father to join him on a walk through the forest. It had been years since Moyo had ventured into the deeper part of the woods, but he agreed, knowing that this walk would be different. They walked side by side, father and son, not as hunters, but as guardians of the forest. The trees whispered their secrets, and the spirits watched from the shadows, their presence a reminder of the balance that had been restored. As they walked, Moyo realized that this would be his final journey into the forest. But unlike his hunts of the past, this journey was not about taking life, it was about finding peace. The forest, once a place of danger and fear, had become a place of solace for Moyo. He no longer felt the weight of his guilt, knowing that he had made amends for his actions. As they reached the sacred grove, Moyo saw the spirits gathered once again. The antelope spirit stood at the center, its eyes filled with compassion. "You have done well, Moyo," the spirit said softly. "Your sacrifice and dedication have restored the balance, and the forest will remember you. But now, it is time for you to rest." Moyo nodded, his heart filled with gratitude. He had lived a long life, and though it had been filled with trials, he knew that he had made peace with the spirits. The spirits blessed Moyo, acknowledging the life he had lived and the legacy he had left behind. The antelope spirit spoke once more, its voice filled with warmth. Ada watches over you, it said. And she is proud of the man you have become. Moyo smiled through his tears, knowing that he had finally found peace. He turned to Adolfo, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. You are the guardian now, Moyo said. Protect the balance, as we have taught you. That night, Moyo passed peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by his loved ones. The village mourned the loss of their beloved hunter and teacher, but they celebrated the life he had lived. Moyo's story was one of redemption, sacrifice, and wisdom, and the villagers honored his memory with songs and prayers. Adolfo, now a young man, stood at his father's side, knowing that the responsibility of protecting the balance now rested on his shoulders. The villagers gathered at the sacred tree to offer their prayers to the spirits, thanking them for the mercy they had shown to Moyo and his family. The antelope spirit appeared one final time, its form flickering in the moonlight. Moyo's spirit is at peace, it said softly. He will watch over you from the other side. The villagers bowed their heads in respect, knowing that Moyo's legacy would live on through his son. As Adolfo stood at the edge of the forest, he felt the presence of both his father and mother watching over him. The weight of responsibility was heavy on his shoulders, but he knew that he was ready. Moyo had taught him well, and Ada's spirit guided him from the other side. Adolfo vowed to protect the balance of the forest, just as his parents had before him. The forest, once a place of fear and danger, had become a place of peace and harmony. The spirits watched over the village, ensuring that the balance between the human world and the spirit world remained intact. Adolfo would carry on his father's legacy, teaching the next generation the importance of respect and humility. The circle of life had come full circle, and the balance had been restored. With Moyo's passing, a new chapter began for the village of Umoda. Adolfo took on the role of village guardian, ensuring that the people continued to live in harmony with the forest. The villagers honored Moyo's memory by planting a sacred tree at the heart of the village, a symbol of the balance he had worked so hard to restore. The tree grew tall and strong, its branches reaching towards the sky, just as Moyo's legacy continued to grow in the hearts of the villagers. Adolfo often sat beneath the tree, reflecting on the lessons his father had taught him. He knew that the responsibility of protecting the balance was not just his, it was a responsibility shared by everyone in the village. Years passed, and Adolfo grew older, but the lessons his father had taught him remained as strong as ever. He passed those lessons down to his own children, ensuring that the balance between the human world and the spirit world would never be broken again. The villagers continued to honor the spirits with their annual festival of balance, a reminder of the sacrifices that had been made to restore peace. Moyo's story became a legend, passed down from generation to generation. His journey from hunter to guardian was a tale of redemption, humility, and wisdom, a story that reminded the villagers of the importance of respecting the natural world. And though Moyo was no longer with them in body, his spirit remained a guiding force, watching over the village from the other side. Please subscribe to African Folktale by feyii for more amazing stories like this. See you in the next story.